Hi guys, it's Christina Benjamin. I'm back again to read another chapter from the first book in my YA series, The Geneva Project, Truth. I'm going to be reading chapter 11 today, but before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all the guest readers that have been stopping by. If you've been following along, we've had guest authors, fans, friends, and it's been a lot of fun, so thank you all so much for participating. And I hope you're enjoying watching us. And if you think you want to make your own video, that would be so much fun. So feel free to message me on Facebook or send me an email at christina@thegenevaprojectbook.com. Okay, let's start with chapter 11. Nova caught my eye as I was walking past him. "Don't forget about tonight," called his voice in my head. Like that was possible. I gave him a nod and kept walking. I got back to my room and sprawled out on my cot bed. I flipped over onto my back and stared at the ceiling. I had so many thoughts, most of which were questions, whirling around my head. I wished it was 11 o'clock already so I could be on my way to getting answers to some of them. I felt like I had learned so many new things about myself in the past 24 hours that I couldn't keep them all straight. I lay there with my mind whirling until someone came into the room. I popped up on my elbows to see it was only Sparrow, so I slumped back down onto the bed. "You forgot your sheet music," she said, cheerily waving the papers at me. "Oh, thanks," I mumbled, sitting up and taking the papers from her. I stared at them sulkily as she sat down next to me, curling her delicate legs under her. "You know, I could help you practice. I'm sure you'll get better at it." "That's not what's bothering me, actually," I sighed. "Is it Gemma?" she whispered. "Not that either at the moment. I've just been trying to keep everything straight, you know? I feel like there's so much for me to learn still about what I can do. But I've already learned so much, and I have all these questions. I just feel really confused. How do you deal with it when you first found out that you had powers?" Sparrow smiled at me and grabbed my hand. "First, it's going to be okay. You have me and Nova and Journey to help you with all of this. Second, you need a journal. That always helps me make sense of my questions and keep track of things." "A journal?" "Yes, I have a spare that you can use to start with," she said as she bounded over to her shelf in her wardrobe. I started to argue that we weren't allowed to keep personal things, but she was ignoring me with her head shoved deep inside the closet. She probably couldn't even hear me. "Here it is," she said, dusting off a notebook and bringing it over to me. "This is just one of our lesson notebooks," I said, flipping it over in my hands as I inspected it. "Well, what did you expect? Something spectacular?" "It has to blend in with our things, since you know we're not allowed to keep personal things," she said, mimicking my whiny voice. So she had heard me after all. This got a smile out of me. "Okay, so what do I do? Just empty my brain right here on the pages? What if someone finds it?" She smiled widely at me and grabbed a pencil. "Watch." She started scrawling her name on the first page. Then she wrote the date. And underneath it, she neatly wrote, "Today I give this journal to 65, so that she may begin her quest to greatness and learn the true gift that has been bestowed upon her, Sparrow." She handed the book back to me so I could inspect what she wrote. Then she closed the cover and held on to one end of the notebook, thrusting the other end in my direction. "Okay, now hold on, close your eyes, and repeat after me." At first, the room was completely still. I sat quietly waiting for her to say something, and then I heard it. "Restore." My eyes flew open. She could speak to me telepathically, too. I quickly shut my eyes again and concentrated on speaking to her with my mind. "Restore, restore, restore." "Okay, open your eyes," said Sparrow, with her amber eyes gleaming back at me. "Now for the moment of truth. Open it." I slowly pulled the notebook back toward me and opened it to the first page. It was completely blank. I must have missed a page. I flipped faster and faster. Every page was blank. I flipped it over and started from the back. Blank. All blank. "You did it," she squealed. "Did what?" Okay. I'll show you the best part. Repeat after me," she said, once again grabbing half the notebook. "Reveal." This time I heard her right away and repeated back to her with my mind. "Reveal." We opened our eyes and we stared at each other for a moment. Her face was bright with her twitchy smile as she jutted her chin at me, motioning for me to open the book. I hesitated for a moment, feeling silly, but when I folded the smooth cover back, the first page revealed what hadn't been there a moment ago. There in front of me was Sparrow's note. "How?" I exclaimed, almost jumping away from the words on the page with surprise. "It's part of my powers," she said, "and it's essential for keeping a journal. Like you said, we don't want anyone else reading it." "But can I do it? You just did." "Yeah, but you were helping me." "Try it again, on your own this time." I repeated the process. Restore, reveal. And to my surprise, it worked exactly the same way. I was so excited I could barely contain myself. I felt like I was doing real magic. This was even better than the flaming light Nova showed me. That felt so detached from reality, almost like it was a dream, not something that actually happened. But this was right out in the open, in my everyday life. I was sitting in my room making words disappear and reappear. I grabbed the pencil and scribbled in the notebook under where Sparrow had written, "Sparrow is amazing. She just showed me an incredible trick. I can't wait to explore everything I can learn in the safety of this journal. Sparrow, you are truly incredible." Restore, reveal. It worked again. I was positively glowing, and when I looked over at Sparrow, so was she. I reached forward, drawing her into a fierce hug. I hadn't felt this happy in, well, forever. "How did you know I could do this?" "I had a feeling about you. When you told me about how Nova could read minds and telepathically communicate, and that suddenly you could too, I thought you might be a parallel, someone who can mimic others' powers. It's very rare, but then again, so are you." "Parallel? So I can do all the things you and Nova can do?" "Potentially. Once we reveal a power to you and show you how to use it, you can absorb it and replicate it. Some things are simpler than others. Some will require a lot of practice." "What else can you show me?" I asked excitedly. "Well, there's lots, but I think we better talk about that later," she said, gesturing to the door. I could hear more activity in the hall, meaning that the rest of our year would soon be returning from dinner. "I'll leave you to your homework," she said with a wink, and then she hopped off my bed and went over to the large table in the center of our room and piled her lesson books there to begin on her own homework. I sat curled up on my cot bed, resting my back against the cool window panes as I began to write my first true excerpt in my journal as the rest of the orphans filed into our room. Dear Journal, today is my first official entry. I've decided to use you to help me keep record of all the new and exciting things I'm discovering about myself. Until recently, I thought I was a less than average girl, living in an orphan center of Hullaby Island, wishing with all my heart that I would someday know my family and my real name. I have lived here all my life, with barely any friends or anything to look forward to. I always felt alone, like there was no one on my side, and my hopes and dreams would never come true. My life has changed very suddenly after forming an unexpected friendship with a boy named Nova, who up until now I thought I had a major crush on. But as it turns out, he has special powers and can do magic. It seems that I've been misconstruing his powers as this unavoidable attraction I had to him. It's a relief to know I'm not hopelessly in love with this unattainable, seriously beautiful older boy, because he seems to have become my new mentor. Because get this, I have powers too. Nova brought me to the forest for our first time last night by summoning me with his mind. I think this is called telepathing. At least that's what Sparrow called it. I'll tell you about her in a minute. Okay, back to Nova. This telepathing thing is one of Nova's powers. Next, he shows me how he can produce a flame out of thin air, and he wants me to try it. After a few failed attempts and some misunderstanding, I actually could do it, and more. I produced light. It wasn't a flame. I don't know how else to explain it other than it was bright and powerful and tingly, and it made me so happy. Then Nova also explained about another power he has, where he can manipulate people's thoughts. This power frightens me the most, and I have so many questions about it. I don't even know what it's called, but I've been calling it mind bending because I thought he was doing it to me, and I truly felt like my mind was all meddled around in, and my thoughts were bent in so many directions that I couldn't think straight. But it turns out that's just how your brain reacts when you've been a nobody your whole life, and all of a sudden you're special and you have powers, and can do things you never dreamed of. and you're getting this unfamiliar attention and new friends. I used to be able to count John 26 as my one and only friend. And if you asked me last week who my best friend was, I would have laughed and said my only friend would be my best friend. What a silly question. But I found out that he hasn't even been completely honest with me. He's been hiding the fact that he knew his real name from me. It's Remy. It just hurts because I want to know my name so much, and Remy knows his name but never even shared it with me. I suppose he was just trying to protect me, because apparently I might be the only orphan who doesn't remember their real name since I was so young when I came here. Even the other Janes and Johns that know their names don't dare speak them because it's taboo here at the center, and will land you in the locker and perhaps bring on the wrath of the gods. I had pretty much forgiven Remy for not telling me about his name, but now we have something else coming between us. I get the feeling that he doesn't really like my new friends for some reason. And I also tried to tell him about my powers, and he doesn't believe me. He just thinks I'm acting crazy because I've been hanging around with Journey, Sparrow, and Nova. Journey and Sparrow are the newest of my friends, and they're like Nova and I. They have powers, too. Well, I know for sure Sparrow does. She's great. She said we were like sisters, and she's the one who gave me this journal to help me manage all my thoughts and questions. She has one herself, and she even taught me how to enchant it so that no one else can read it. That's the coolest thing I've learned so far, and definitely my favorite power. She also showed me how she heals things by restoring them back to their original state, which came in handy with my dirty uniform and our flood work duty. I haven't learned how to do these things yet, but I think I will because Sparrow also told me she thinks I'm a parallel. I guess that's the name for someone who can mimic other people's powers. So far, I've been able to mimic the journey thing, the journal thing, and the telepath thing. I sort of read Remy's mind too in history and trade lessons, even though he doesn't believe me. So maybe I'm a mind bender too. So you see, this is a lot to take in, and there are so many things I want to know more about. I just have so many questions. I'm going to meet Nova in the forest again tonight, and I'm bringing Sparrow and Journey with me. I hope Nova's not too mad that I'm bringing them along, but I figured if we're all out there together, maybe I can get more answers to my questions. Question number 1, will I ever learn my real name? Question number 2, will I ever know anything about my family? Question number 3, do I really have a crush on Nova? Question number 4, what is the deal with Nova's mind-bending power? Can I do it? Is it dangerous? Question number 5, will Remy ever believe I have powers? Will he still want to be my friend? Question number 6, can I trust Journey? Question number 7, can Sparrow actually teach me to sing? Question number 8, what really happened when I hit Gemma, and why does she hate me so much? Question number 9, am I really a parallel? Question number 10, who else has powers? Wish me luck, journal. Hopefully the next time I write in you, I'll have answers to these questions. As I closed my journal and secured it with my Restore enchantment, I felt lighter and more confident than ever. Sparrow was right. This journaling thing was a good idea. I could feel it helping me already. I felt like I had my thoughts collected all in a row and would surely be able to formulate some answers tonight. I looked around the room at all the other orphans in my year. They were scattered about, most of them working on their homework lessons. Some were leafing lazily through books on their bed, and others were gathering in little clusters, chatting away to each other. Everything seemed utterly ordinary. I scanned the room for Remy. He was sitting alone at the far end of the table studying his lessons. I felt my cheeks flush instantly when he looked up at me. I hated that we were fighting, and I knew I was going to have to be the one to make the first move to right this situation. I hopped off my cot bed and walked over to Remy, pulling up a chair next to him. "What you working on?" I said nonchalantly. "History and trade, and you should be too. Graven gave us a lot of reading if you don't recall." "Oh yeah, I should get on that. Let me go find my book and I'll join you." I scurried away to grab my book before he could protest and was back in a flash. "So what pages were we supposed to read again?" I asked. "You really are hopeless," he said, with a hint of a smile. "Here," he said, pushing his notebook toward me. "These are the notes from class today, and our reading assignment." Now he really was smiling. It seemed like he had already forgiven me, even without an apology I had been readying. He was such a good friend. I always admired his kind heart, and it made me feel almost worse that I had even been fighting with him to begin with. I reached for his hand and leaned in close to him and whispered, "Remy, I'm really sorry. But he cut me off before I could even get anything else out. "I know. Don't mention it, okay?" He stared at me with his big brown eyes and squeezed my hand. "So we're good?" "We're good," he smiled. This made me smile too. For a little while, we worked side by side on our reading. I would interrupt him occasionally to have him clarify his notes. "You really should practice your penmanship," I joked with him. "This is atrocious," I said, mimicking Miss Nelia's high-pitched accent. "Like yours is any better," he said, reaching for my journal. Before I could stop him, he was fanning out the pages. His expression slowly changed from playful to confused. "I don't get it. You were writing in this all night, but it's empty." "Oh, that was a different notebook," I said, snatching it back from him. Gong! Saved by the bell again. This chime meant it was the end of our day, and we had about 20 minutes to get changed and into bed before the final bell, signaling lights out. I leapt up out of my chair, startled by the sound of it, and grateful for it all at once. I grabbed my things and smiled at him before turning to head to the Jane's wardrobe. He continued to stare at me suspiciously. I could feel his eyes on my back as I disappeared into the crowd of Janes milling about as they got ready for bed. I pulled my oversized nightshirt on over my work clothes, and quickly hopped into my cot bed under the covers before anyone noticed how lumpy my long gray nightshirt looked. Although no one ever paid me any attention, I still felt nervous that someone would take notice. As I lay in bed, I had to concentrate on slowing my heartbeat. That was surely loud enough to give me away. Well, maybe only to Sparrow and Journey. Gong! The final bell rang, and the room went dark. The struggling electricity ceased its laborious buzzing and began its nightly slumber, leaving us in an eerie silence without its powerful hum. I lay wide awake, bathed in the moonlight from the window. I was even more nervous tonight, because not only did I have to escape, but Sparrow and Journey did too. I wished I could talk to her and make sure she was still coming. Wait a minute, I could telepath her. "Sparrow, Sparrow." "Yes?" "Oh, great, it's working. This is how I'll tell you it's time to go tonight. You're still coming with me, right?" "Of course." "What about Journey?" "Did you have a chance to talk to him about it?" "Yes, he's with us." "Okay, be ready to go when I call you again." That is the end of chapter 11. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will have another chapter video for you next week. Tune in.